Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. In these uncertain times, the stability and reliability of C-SPAN ensures that the public affairs channel remains a national treasure. Sometimes, though, it's hard to tell if the viewer phone calls are pranks or a real reflection of MAGA idiocy. The latest example came on a Sunday morning edition of Washington Journal. Watch.
Good morning, Steve.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I sure hope I'm a Christian conservative and a Republican. I sure hope you give me the time that you've been giving these Democrats that's been bashing everything. You know, there was an election here back on November the 5th. There was an election, and the American people clearly voted they want to find out where this corruption and all their money, taxpayer money's at.
At this point, given Steve's accent and intoxication-like cadence, I would have been suspicious. But host Kimberly Adams stayed calm and let caller Steve continue with his wild allegations about government spending.
Billions of dollars to stupid things like overseas, about this sex change operations overseas and illegal money, and she's been funding this money overseas. And I know you want to cut me off because I'm a Christian conservative, and you're going to have somebody else cut me off.
Nobody cut off Steve because despite his absurd and disproven claims about USAID paying for sex change operations, C-SPAN welcomes all points of view, even when it reflects the debilitating mental health condition known as MAGA brain. Instead of ending the call with Steve, C-SPAN host Kimberly Adams even tried to ask him a question.
Exactly
Steve, can I ask you, of the moves that Elon Musk has made so far, which of the cuts in particular are you most in support of?
All this silly money, the USAID did that's going overseas for sex change operations that's been diverted to Hamas murdering killers. All this money. There's a list that Karoline Leavitt read it off just the other day. She read part of the list. The list is so long, but there's going to be a hearing on it.
A couple of things. First, there is going to be a hearing on government spending. Second, White House spokesperson Karoline Leavitt did read some of her claims about USAID. She said the agency was spending $50 million to send condoms to Gaza. That's been proven false based on USAID records and based on common sense about Gaza. Third, Leavitt never said USAID is paying for sex change operations for Hamas. And records show USAID has never paid for sex change operations, nor would Hamas ever take such money. And that's because Hamas is a radical Islamic terror organization that murders members of their own families who are LGBTQ. In Gaza, there is no such thing as gay rights or even gender equality. Women who dare speak out against their Hamas husbands in Gaza are killed. So the idea that Hamas would ever welcome money for sex change operations is absolutely insane. That conspiracy theory, though, underscores how little some Americans know about the Middle East, radical Islam, and conflicts like the Israeli-Hamas war. Still, kudos to C-SPAN for letting callers like Steve show us how uneducated and misinformed some Americans really are. Sadly, Steve was not a prank call. Now, let's get back to the issue of USAID spending. MSNBC recently hosted Andrew Natsios, a conservative Republican who served as USAID administrator during the George W. Bush administration.
Who controls the appropriation? The Congress does, and OMB does, which is controlled by the White House. AID doesn't run out and do whatever they want. Every single dollar in the aid budget is already earmarked. We don't have a lot of choice. And I might add, there's a federal index of how well-managed agencies are. It's a nonpartisan group, independent, on purely a technical basis. AID is ranked as the third best managed federal agency in the United States government. The notion that the agency are criminals and all that, that's a lot of garbage. It's a lie, it's an insult, and what they do keep doing, if you repeat a lie long enough, people will begin to believe it.
And they believe it, especially if those people are in MAGA world. And the fact that USAID's money is appropriated by Congress and that the agency is well run, that has all been lost in the blizzard of lies and false claims from the Trump administration. Recently, News Nation did something of a fact check about U.S. foreign aid and some specific Trump administration assertions.
While it is true USAID money went towards a grant in Serbia to advance, quote, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the other funding outlined by the White House press secretary Karoline Leavitt, including DEI initiatives in Ireland, Colombia, and Peru, totaling about $150,000, was actually awarded by the State Department, not USAID. On the flip side, USAID has given out millions to fight AIDS in Africa, conserve the Amazon rainforest in South America, and gave $45 million to fund the UN World Food Program, among its other global donations. Back home, farmers and other American workers are also feeling the impact. American farmers supply over 40% of global food aid, but with the White House shuttering USAID, shipments of rice, wheat, soybeans totaling $34 million have been paused, according to the Washington Post.
So, U.S. farmers are being hurt by the Trump administration's agency freeze. The Trump White House is blaming USAID for spending decisions made by the State Department, and 60% of USAID's money is spent on aid to help people in dire physical and medical condition. Let me be clear. Every U.S. government agency, including USAID, should be audited and closely examined to make sure money is not being wasted and that U.S. taxpayers are not being ripped off. Furthermore, if a new administration wants to change the spending priorities in any government agency, there is a lawful way and process to do that. But what the Trump administration has done with USAID by trying to shut it down and suddenly blocking funds without any input or vote in Congress, that is unlawful. That's why the federal courts are now blocking the Trump administration effort. If President Trump wants to lobby Congress to end USAID, go for it. And if Trump thinks the American people will support his efforts, Trump should have no problem winning votes on this issue in Congress. But to simply bypass Congress and make up nonsense about USAID, well, that is despicable. And even worse, a lot of the most extreme crap is getting embraced and echoed by low-information MAGA voters. Hamas is taking USAID money for sex change operations? Sadly, those deranged C-SPAN callers are not a joke. By the way, Democratic House member Jasmine Crockett of Texas recently slammed President Trump in epic fashion on live TV.
This is very simple. We right now have a white supremacist that is sitting in the White House. He is backed up by other white supremacists. And if you really want to know who the criminals are in this country, you can Google it. You don't have to trust me. But the people that commit 80% of the most violent crimes in this country are white supremacists. Yet for whatever reason, they sit and they serve at the pleasure of the president. They are the ones that were there on January 6th, tearing our democracy down physically. And now we have them tearing us down right here from within.
Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.